Hello and welcome to episode 68 of the Tea and Possibilities podcast. I'm Nikki and this is a podcast all about knitting, crochet and making all the things here in Northwest London. You can find me on Instagram at hippie_Nikki. I'm Nikki Hippie on Ravelry, and if you search for Tea and Possibilities under the groups tab on Ravelry, you will find our group right there. As always, everything I mention on this episode will be quick linked below, and there will be juicier show notes on my blog, and there will be a chatter thread in the thread on Ravelry. Forum. There'll be a chatter thread in the forum on Ravelry. If that's my only mistake with the intro when I've been away for a little while, I think that's pretty good going. As always, I would like to say a massive welcome to any new viewers. Thank you for giving the podcast a shot. I know there are very many out there, but I hope you enjoy this episode. And to my returning viewers, thank you so much for coming back every episode, whenever they may be. I should quickly flag before we get into kind of our regular programming. I have mentioned that I'm on Instagram, but I'm currently not. I started a new job at the beginning of the year. I started training for a year-long challenge that I'm doing, which is a 10-mile race every month. And I've just not really had the bandwidth to take pictures and share them to Instagram in January. But I found I was still kind of clicking into it and just mindlessly scrolling in between tasks. And I thought, you know, that's quite a bad habit to get into. So I have just deleted the app for February. So I'm not currently on it. I'm not using it. I'm just looking to kind of break a bit of a bad habit. I will be back in March. And I will probably share some of the pictures I've taken in February because it's already been a really good month. I went to a cat cafe last weekend and I will be going to Wales next weekend and Scotland the weekend after. So there will be plenty to share, but if you are trying to contact me on there, I don't ever really look at my Instagram DMs because they can get a little bit overwhelming. But yeah, I'm not actually on there, so the best way to contact me is via Ravelry DM. And yes, as I alluded to, I have been away for a little while. As I said, work and everything has been quite busy. It's kind of very much been thrown in at the deep end and trying to get to know new people, new job, get back into my training. So yeah, it's been a very busy few weeks and I haven't really done much knitting, spoiler alert. Today's tea is my first cup of the day. I went to work yesterday. So yesterday was Saturday and I was working. I now work at university and I had an open day. So I was working that and I didn't get home in time to go for my run. So I went for a run first thing this morning and this is my first cup of tea of the day. So it is an Earl Grey, as is my usual first cup. I also meant to show you one of my new Christmas mugs because I think I told you that I got, was it 4 or 5 for Christmas? But my mum made me this one in my kind of usual swimming pool sized mug. So thank you, Mum. One last thing before I jump into Whipped Up. It is a pretty stormy day here in London. It is just gone 12 o'clock. And it looks about 6 outside. It is very, very dark. We have Storm Clara, I think, coming over us this weekend. So it's very, very windy, quite rainy. It hasn't properly rained yet. So I don't know, I've got all the windows shut, but the wind and the rain, if it starts properly, may pick up on the mic. And it is a little bit cozier lighting than usual, which is because it is a very, very grey day here in London town. Right, let's move on to Whipped Up. Spoiler alert, it's not a very big segment. I talked on my last episode about not having a massive amount of mojo at the moment. I was, in case you missed last episode, I was very sick for most of December. I got a bit of a chest infection and as I am asthmatic, that was a bit of a struggle. I then started a new job. Obviously Christmas was quite busy and it's all just been quite tiring. And I also, as I said at the beginning of the episode, I'm back to my training. I did do my first 10-mile race. I did do it. It wasn't pretty, but I did it. So yeah, it's just been that kind of feeling of when I come home, I've just wanted to kind of slump and read a book and not have to think too much. So I haven't got very much to show you at all. However, I like to keep it as real as possible on the podcast, and sometimes our mojo comes and gojos, frankly, and that's just how it is. Life gets in the way, and I want to show up and share with you what I've been doing, why I've been so productive and why I've been unproductive. And I think that that's good to see, because sometimes I think we compare ourselves to other people way too much. So I'm turning up to say, didn't do very much the past couple of weeks, if at all. But we are going to kick off with a faux. This is my usual vanilla pattern. It's cuffed down, and I learned to knit these from Meanwhile at the Castle. So if you're looking to learn to knit socks, I really recommend them. I will link them below. This is knit out of Amy of Stranded's Christmas 2019 colourway. This is Gingerbread House, and the red heels, toes and cuffs is, I believe, Christmas red. I finished the second sock. They both took a really long time. I checked on Ravelry, which is why I love Ravelry, and I started these in like early November, and I didn't finish them till last week. They were just really slow going. I don't know why. They were great to just knit on when I needed to not think, but then I would reach the parts where I had to think, like the heel and the gusset and then the toe. I also very nearly ran out of red. I love this red so much, and I probably make my cuffs a little bit too deep when it comes to mini skeins, so I do sail quite close to the wind in that way, but I just thought it was so beautiful, and I very nearly ran out. I think I had about less than a metre left when I kitchened. I have got enough to make it worth going into my crochet blanket, but it is literally going to be about 10 little, I don't know what you'd call them, like little squares. But yeah, I love these. These will be going into my Christmas box of socks, and I'm very happy with them indeed. One other thing I will be doing with the leftover yarn, I don't have enough of the red, that's going straight into my blanket, but I will be rolling up some of this Gingerbread House for my advent calendars for this year. I was going to say next year, but this year. I know there will be people out there who are kind of like, why are you talking about Christmas now? I am someone who prepares very well in advance. I have already started putting money away for Christmas this year. I put a little bit away every month, which just helps spread the cost. And if I start rolling off the balls now, you know, they're pretty much done by November, and then all I've got to do is wrap them. Just makes my life that little bit easier. I am really hoping that that faux will kickstart my year of knitting, because that is it. That is all I have had to work on. I have really wanted to work on my Cozy Memories blanket, but every time I've gone to pick it up, it's like, oh, I've got to start a new square. And I just can't. Like, my brain is like, no, just want something I can knit round and round on, or crochet back and forth. But I haven't had time to like sort out any mini skeins for my crochet blanket. So yes, now that I have done my socks, now that I am settled into my new job, and now that my kind of running training is ticking over quite nicely, I am hoping to get back on to my cozy squares. However, I have some other languishing whips that I really need to work on. So this is me telling you about my plans and my goals in the hope that I will actually follow through on them. It has never happened before, but we can but hope. First up, I have one more pair of Christmas socks that I really want to work on. I have a couple more Christmas sock yarns, which I'm planning to cast on when the festive mood strikes me later in the year. But I have had these Hollyberry socks. I've had them on the needles for, I think I cast them on in June. It was June. That's really bad. And the blocker on that is that they are toe up. And I just, because I am so busy, I very rarely have time to sit down and learn how to do the heel and the gusset and all of that. And I just think every time I go to sit down and do it, I think I could just knit on a sock that's cuffed down, or work on my crochet blanket, and yeah. So I really do need to find some time to do that, because when they're done, I think that takes me to 5 pairs of Christmas socks, which is a really good place to be before Christmas this year. And hopefully I can maybe get that up to around 8 to 10 at the end of the year. But yeah, they are kind of very high priority, and if I can just get them past that gusset heel turn, the leg is and the cuff is going to be really, really easy. And then when I start the next one, the toe and the foot is pretty easy as well. There's just that, it's just got to get around that annoying little corner that we call a heel. However, as I mentioned, I am travelling a fair bit this month. So I am going away next weekend to visit a friend in Wales. And then the following weekend, I will be visiting a friend in Scotland. So I do want some things that are a little bit more easy to take along. If I can get the hollyberry sock to the leg, that would be perfect for the train. However, if I don't get there, I do have some plans. My first plan is to work on my Onion Johnny's hat. It has been very, very cold. As you can tell by the weather today, it is windy and rainy and cold, and I would love a new hat to wear. So I think that would be a really, really good one. It's going to be quite social knitting. I only have to think every now and again for the little cable detail down the side. So that will be my next one. I'm not actually showing you any of these because I was so worried about the light, I didn't have time to fish them all out of my whip bin. So you can use your imagination. I will link to them below. Despite being on kind of, it's not a finishing kick. Why was I going to say finishing kick? I've made one faux this year. But despite wanting to clear my needles and to clear my whips out, my languishing whips out a little bit more, I do want to cast on something new. I am going to cast on my Done to Knit rainbow socks because they are going to make ideal travel knitting. I think that the Onion Johnny's hat will knit up quite quickly. It's worsted weight, it's only a hat, and I don't want to get stuck with my toe-up socks. So I am going to cast on a new pair of socks for my travelling. One thing I did do over the past few weeks is I have frogged my Bittersweet by Vera Valimaki. The more I thought about it, the more I thought this process actually isn't going to be very much fun for me. I don't really enjoy doing moss stitch. It's a lot of moss stitch. And the more I looked at the shape, the more I thought that's not quite the shape I want on me. I'm naturally quite pear-shaped, and I think that where it would stop would be slightly unflattering. I prefer things that are a little bit longer or shorter. So I am looking at more easy-to-wear jumpers. My mum got me a great jumper, which I wore in the last episode, that's really nice and loose. There's a lot of movement in it. It's nice and long, so I can wear it with leggings. I don't only have to wear it with jeans. And that kind of throw-on, easy-to-wear jumper is something I reach for really, really regularly out of my wardrobe, and that is what I need more of. So I am thinking of casting on again, using that green to knit possibly Sweater Hug by Skein Deer because it's very, very simple and would be very, very easy to wear. I also might look at doing a worsted weight boxy. I don't know quite yet. Basically, I am ripping up all of 2019's plans. I'm frogging the Bittersweet. I frogged it actually, it's done, it's over. And I am probably not going to knit the Void Shawl out of the Yarn Collective that I showed you last week. I've had a few comments about it saying that it's quite shallow, and I like a really deep V to my shawls so that I can wear them bandana style. And I just thought, oh, I don't want to do all that work and then it'd be too shallow to fill in the kind of very deep V on my coat. So the more I looked at that yarn, the more I thought, do you really want to be a shawl? Wouldn't you prefer to be a really nice, easy to wear jumper? Because it's beautiful, it's so soft, and I just think it would be a lovely jumper. So I'm potentially going to knit a jumper out of it. I haven't really looked at any patterns yet. I think it's worsted weight, that yarn. I'm almost certain it's worsted weight. But yeah, I'm thinking of knitting a jumper out of it instead. Who am I with all this talk of jumpers? So there you go. It has, when I said it had been a very, very slow month, I wasn't joking at all. And I do feel a little bit sock shamed because literally I'm here doing a podcast to talk to you about knitting and I have one thing to show you. And I do feel a little bit like, oh, I should have more. And then I think, no, I do this for fun. I do this because I really enjoy filming. I actually weirdly enjoy the editing process. And I like talking about my knitting, even if, as Done to Knit says, even if it's only vicarious knitting, which is all it is at the moment. My plan is to focus very heavily on my cozy squares and get a big chunk of that done, and then work on my hollyberry socks and my hat while I'm away. So hopefully next episode there will be a little bit more actual content for you. However, just because I am not getting much knitting done doesn't mean that you can't. I had a little chat recently with Love Crafts, and for those of you that don't know, I actually used to work for Love Crafts. This was in 2017 till 2018, so I was there just over a year. I really enjoyed my time working at Love Crafts, and I'm still friends with a lot of people who work there still, and for people who have also moved on. I really consider myself very, very lucky to have made such good friends there. And we were talking about doing a giveaway because I was going, you know, I've got no content or anything, so we thought we would do a little bit of a collaboration and a little bit of a giveaway. Now, for those of you who don't know, Love Crafts have just launched their own weekly podcast. I believe it's weekly. It is also on YouTube. I will link to it just down below. And it is presented by Marion, who I used to work with, who is absolutely lovely, and Mr. X Stitch. So they talk about all things crafty. It's not just knitting, it's not just crochet, it is also cross stitch, embroidery. So there's a really, really wide range of things that they chat about. So do hop over there, take a look, and do subscribe. But in the meantime, they have given me a beautiful rainbow selection of Paintbox Yarns DK to give away to you. Now, I don't have it here with me. They were going to send it to me to send on, but I thought that seemed pretty inefficient. So when I announce the winner, I will ask you to send me your address, and I will send it over to them, and they will arrange to send it out to you. Now, when I say rainbow, I mean rainbow. I have chosen a spectrum of colours through Roy G. Biv with some pinks and a couple of extra blues and greens in there because you know I love my blues and greens. I just thought it was a beautiful selection for a blanket if you wanted to make a rainbow blanket. Potentially you want to start a temperature blanket, which I've seen doing the rounds again and I'm very tempted by. So I thought it was a good range for that. It would also be a good range just for your stash if you want to do any baby knits. Paintbox DK is brilliant for that. So all you have to do to win is visit the Ravelry thread. I will put up a competition thread in there, and all you have to do is let me know what would you make with your Paintbox rainbow. I've given you a few suggestions there. So you could do blankets, you could do baby knits, you could do hats, you could use it to practice a new technique. You could do anything, and I would love to hear what you are going to work on. If you have patterns to link, please link to them. My queue loves being added to. As I said, will be traveling, so I won't be podcasting for a couple more weeks. So I'm going to close the thread on the 28th of February. That is my birthday weekend, so I will definitely have some time that weekend to film. I will lock the thread and I will use random number generator to pull a winner, and I will announce it on the next episode. So tune in for episode 69 if you do enter this competition. I will then ask you to drop me a DM with your address, and I will arrange with Love Crafts to get that sent right out to you. Well, I didn't actually think whipped up would be that long even, because this is all I've whipped up. However, that does mean I do have a little time for knit and natter, so I'll see you over there. Questions left from one of our old competitions, and I thought I would reply to one of them today. It was about education, and as I've just mentioned earlier in the episode, I do now work in education instead of charity, so I thought it would be just the right thing to do this week. So I'm just going to read out the question for you so I can get it exactly right, and this is from Ni Tanod, which I have probably butchered, and I'm really sorry, but they asked, I also wanted to study history for the longest time and then pick something else. So what did you actually study, and why did you choose to go that way? I think I heard you say you did go to university. I did go to university, yes. And at university, I studied drama and creative writing. It's a slightly long story, but just to scroll back a little bit, I loved history. My school friends and I still talk about how wonderful our history teacher was at secondary school. He was absolutely brilliant, and I loved every minute of it, and it was a no-brainer for me to choose to study history at A-level. However, I didn't have the greatest experience at A-level, which was ironic because my teacher, once more, was absolutely lovely and incredibly passionate about his subject. It just wasn't areas that spiked my interest. I remember one of them we spent, there's the wind again, can you hear that? It's really bad. But I remember we spent one term focusing entirely on the Poor Law, which it's interesting, but it's a whole term and it's just not my area. I prefer older history. So yeah, it just kind of put me off slightly, and I wasn't really sure maybe if history was the route I wanted to go down. So I started thinking that I would take some time off after college. I wouldn't go straight to uni, I would take a year out, maybe get some traveling done, do some volunteering, go to work, and kind of figure out what I wanted to do before I committed myself to university. I spoke to a careers advisor about this, and they told me that the university fees were changing, and I was currently, as my mother is a single parent, I was currently eligible to have my fees paid for me and basically get a bursary. And if I waited, that was not going to happen, and the fees were going up. So I decided to take a leap of faith and go to university when I knew that I wasn't going to have any student debt. And I am very, very lucky I don't have any student debt because of this, because I went the last year when I could. And I chose to do drama and creative writing because I loved English, I loved writing, and I loved drama. And I kind of had this vague idea that I might go into acting or teaching or writing. And it just seemed a good area to study. And I absolutely loved it. I had such an amazing time, and I think that I got a lot more out of it than just my degree. You know, I think everyone goes to university and grows as a person. However, I knew probably by my third year that that wasn't what I would have chosen if I had taken the time, the year out to think about it. I did think, yeah, you know, I could have done history. I knew a lot of history students and I found what they were studying really interesting. But I didn't regret it, because it's very hard to regret getting a great education for free. And I am incredibly privileged and incredibly lucky to have had that opportunity. And I can't regret that I didn't choose the right subject. I have also managed to leverage my degree into a career that I really enjoy. I work in marketing. I absolutely adored working for my charity, and when we decided to bring the project to an end, it was very, very bittersweet, because I was incredibly proud of the work we had done. I loved the people that I worked with. I loved the job. I loved working in the Royal Hospital in Chelsea. It was literally 18 months of just pure joy. It was incredible. And now I am very, very lucky that I get to work a little bit nearer home. I work at a university and I work in student recruitment. So my job is to show students what we do. I particularly focus on science and tech, which is fascinating. And I get to say to them, hey, this could be the right place for you. However, I feel very lucky to enjoy the career that I have. I'm progressing in my career, which is great. However, if I won the lottery tomorrow, I probably would quit and go back to university. I would probably study history. As I'd won the lottery, I could go anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, and study whatever I wanted regarding history, and I would definitely do that. And then I would probably go to Glasgow to do a postgraduate degree in textile conservation, because they have a fantastic degree in that up there. And I can't remember how I stumbled across it, but I thought it sounded fascinating. It's a 2-year postgrad, and yeah, I would definitely do that if I could. And who knows, maybe when I've got my own place and I'm kind of looking more settled financially, maybe I will go back to uni, who knows. But for the time being, I'm very happy with the job I have. I'm very, very glad that I took the route that I took, because it's led me here and I'm quite happy at the moment. But yeah, I did go to university, and did I take the right thing? I don't know. I took the right thing for me at the time. University is a tricky one. I think very few people go to university and take the right degree. So many people go, or at least, you know, 10 years ago when I went to university because that was the next step, and that was the next logical thing to do. I'm seeing a real trend now where people don't go to university necessarily at 18. They wait and they figure it out to see exactly what they want to do, and then they come in and they're much more focused and much more clear. Whereas I, as I said, went into my degree like, I might teach, I might write, I might be an actress, you know. And I think it's fascinating to see how teenagers today are dealing with their education, because it is mad when you think about it. Do we expect people to know at 18 what they want to do for the next 40 years of their life? It's mad. Because, you know, when you do get to my age, it is a lot more difficult to decide, oh, I'm just going to up sticks and go back to university, because, you know, you do have commitments, you have responsibilities, and you need a job to do that. So yeah, I think I'm just kind of waffling out loud now about my thoughts on education, which is not what the question was. But yeah, I do find education fascinating, and I do think it's quite sad that we encourage people to educate themselves, you know, up to 21, and then the expectation is then you just go on to a career, and there's not really much opportunity to pursue your education further after that, which is a shame. What is your story? Why did you go to university? Why didn't you go to university? What did you study? And however many years later it is now, was it the right thing? I'm really, really curious. But that's my story. Who knows, maybe if the podcast is still around when I'm 40, I'll be going, I've quit my job and I'm going to Glasgow. So who knows, stick around. So there we go, a nice short and sweet episode for you this week. As I said, I will be back in about 3 weeks' time because of the travelling, but I will have a lot more to tell you because I will have gone to Wales and because I will have gone to Scotland, and that is a very long train journey there and back. So a lot of knitting time, guys, lots of knitting time. I hope you're all very well. I hope you have a very knitty couple of weeks, and I will see you very soon for another cup of tea. Take care, bye. Always have to put my glasses on to actually see if it's in focus. Actually, it's not. The light's not reflecting too badly today. Storm Clara.